I never thought that tragedy would visit us during the festive season, and yet it is ironic because I remember that night I had been worrying about my family. My young brother seems to be accident-prone. If it's not a leg he's breaking, it's an arm or an ankle. And my oldest sister had just come off late duty and was fixing his sling. I was also worrying about her, working among different diseases and infections. And poor Mum, she didn't look too well after her operation. Ironing really tires her. And we'd warned her about that faulty flex. Dad had promised to fix the flex, but he just takes the paper and sits behind the TV. He's not interested in TV anymore. He says it disrupts family unity. He falls asleep, doesn't get beyond a few paragraphs on the first page. He's been like this for a while, so I was concerned for him. I was just going upstairs when suddenly
the rugged wilderness area of northwest Sutherland's parishes of Assynt, Edrechillis, Durness and Tongue has around 2,600 people in an area in excess of 800 square miles, with the lowest population density in Western Europe. This area of scenic beauty includes 3 national scenic areas and a UNESCO geopark. Over on the eastern side of the far north, a very different landscape is seen. Facing north to the North Atlantic Ocean, the east coast entices us with rugged clifftop scenery and wildlife. North and West Sutherland and Caithness form the most northerly counties in Scotland on the mainland, separated by the Pentland Firth from the Orkney Islands. The county flags represent the strong Viking influence in this area. Since the end of the Ice Age, people have lived in this area. These partially reconstructed Neolithic chambered cairns at Camster and Caithness were originally built more than 5,000 years ago, making them one of the oldest stone monuments in Scotland. The castle of Old Wick was built by the Vikings, who from around 900 AD arrived in great numbers and colonised Caithness, or Catanis to give it its Old Norse name. Caithness was part of the Kingdom of Norway up until it transferred to Scotland after the Treaty of Perth in 1266. But the Viking influence is still strong in the local dialect, and the vast majority of place names are of Norse origin. Our journey starts at Kileskew on the west coast, where in 1984 the new award-winning Kileskew Bridge was opened by the Queen, replacing the old ferry that saved motorists a 100-mile detour. During World War II, a top-secret naval mission was set up to test out small midget submarines. They trained at Kileskew as it resembled the fjords of Norway. Their mission was to sink the German battleship Tirpitz. In 1943, the midget submarines heavily damaged the Tirpitz and it was relocated to Tromsø, where it was finally sunk. We now explore the island of Handa. Up until the mid-19th century, Handa supported a relatively large population for its size. The island had its own parliament, very similar to St Kilda. And traditionally, the oldest widow was given the title Queen of Handa. The potato famine of 1848 led to the migration of the islanders to Nova Scotia and Canada, and it has since then been uninhabited. Just across the Sound of Handa lies the village of Scowrie. Many people of the parish used to bury their dead on Handa Island due to the fact that the wolves would dig up the graves on the mainland, as the following poem on Edrachillis Shore from 1846 illustrates.
On Edrachillis shore the grey wolf lies in wait. Woe to the broken door, woe to the loosened gate. Thus every grave we dug the hungry wolf uptore, and every morn the sod was strewn with bones and gore. Our Mother Earth had denied us rest on Edrachillis' shore.
The Northwest Highlands have a unique landscape and boasts panoramic mountain views, sandy beaches, tranquil lochs and a fascinating history. The land between the two fjord-like sea lochs of Laxford and Inchard is called the Empty Quarter, and on the west coast the scenery comprises of the Leuchie Gneiss Rock basement, with numerous lochs, small coves and craggy headlands. And at 2.8 billion years old, these rocks are the oldest by far in Europe. The area is shaped by the action of glaciers during the last ice age, where in between the mountains are secluded glens and caves that have yielded fossil evidence of ice age reindeer, brown bears, polar bears, the northern lynx and wolves from the last glaciation at around 10,000 years ago. There was a larger population present in this area before what was to become the Highland clearances took place between 1750 and 1860. These clearances forced clansmen and women off the marginal land to make way for more profitable sheep rearing. Feudalism moved to capitalism in less than 2 generations. The eviction of tenants went against the principle that clan members had an inalienable right to rent land in clan territory, but this was never recognised in Scottish law, and it was gradually abandoned by clan chiefs as they began to think of themselves simply as commercial landlords, rather than as patriarchs of their clanspeople. The actions of landlords varied. Some did try to delay or limit evictions, often to their financial cost. A few chieftains or landlords displayed a complete lack of concern for evicted tenants, and this led to the mass emigration of people from this area to Nova Scotia and other parts of Canada. As we follow the Laxford River inland, we come to the impressive Lochmore Lodge, weirdly out of place in these empty lands, and is the centrepiece of the Duke of Westminster's Rainforest Estate, a large traditional sporting estate famed for its deer stalking, trout and salmon fishing. The estate covers an area from Kylestrome, where we originally started off on our journey, to the mountainous Rainforest area, which is not a forest in our use of the word, but is the Highland name for an area of rugged mountain wilderness with very few trees. This rugged area has not changed since the retreat of the glaciers 10,000 years ago. The Rainforest Estate extends some 150 square miles and contains the mountains of Bain, Ben Arkell, and at almost 3,000 feet, Foinaven, whose shattered white quartzite scree and narrow ridge make for amazing hill walking. Anne Ross, who lived on the Westminster estate at Achfarry for many years, can give us an insight into life in this very remote area.
I arrived in the late 70s at Lochmore Lodge. The menfolk worked as gillies. They escorted fishing parties and deer stalkers, where the gillies went with the gamekeeper and guests, using Highland ponies to carry back the deer carcass. The womenfolk did housekeeping in the various lodges and cottages on the Westminster estate. There was no television or radio in Achfarry then, and it was 14 miles to the nearest pub. We had impromptu ceilidhs in each other's houses, where there was always someone with an accordion or a guitar and plenty of people to sing.
In the remote Strathmore lies Dundornagle, an excellent example of a broch, which is a dry stone roundhouse found only in Scotland and mostly in the north of Scotland. Dundornagle dates back at least 2,300 years ago to the Iron Age. The broch tower stands to an impressive 24 feet high in places, although when originally built it would be roughly over 50 feet in height. The walls in between the broch would have been hollow, with staircases in between for access to separate floors. The triangular door lintel stone was for prestige and decoration, and this would have been the home of a local Iron Age chieftain. To the north is the most northerly Munro in Scotland. That is a mountain over 3,000 feet. Ben Hope dominates Strathmore, and the single-track road must be the loneliest road in Britain. We come to the central point in the whole northern landmass at Altnahara. This desolate hinterland is part of the flow country, which covers huge areas of Sutherland and Caithness. These flows are a rare type of peatland which forms only in cool places with plenty of rain and covers a landscape like a blanket, hence its name Blanket Bog. Due to the cool, wet and acidic conditions, the plants don't fully rot away when they die. Instead, they build up deep layers of peat. The flow country's bogs at Fiag and Leuchie, we can now see the peat with exposed tree stumps, remnants of what in the past was a huge forest covering northern Scotland in much warmer climatic conditions. The word Bain in Gaelic simply means peat. The blanket bogs of the flow country in Sutherland and Caithness are important in our fight against climate change. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use the carbon to build the plant structure. When the plants die, the carbon is released back into the atmosphere unless the plant material can be preserved. That's why peat bogs are important as a defence against climate change, because the moss and other plants don't fully decay. Bogs act as a carbon store or sink. The flow country's peat bogs in Sutherland and Caithness alone store about 400 million tonnes, more than double the amount in all of Britain's woodlands. But if the bog dries out or is damaged, the carbon is released as carbon dioxide, adding to the effects of climate change. That is why it is so important for us to maintain our peatlands. Continuing our journey to the east side of the Moyne Peninsula, we come to the scenic Kyle of Tongue, and unlike Loch Erible, is a shallow tidal sea loch, famous for the tongue oysters cultivated and harvested by hand in the shallow tidal waters of the Kyle. The name Tongue has Norse origins. It comes from Tunga, or tongue of land projecting into the loch. Before the causeway was built in 1971, the only route to the west from the village of Tongue was by the road around the Kyle. Tongue was effectively an island community, relying on the sea for its communications, until 1828, when Thomas Telford completed the road south to Lairg. In 1836, a road to Thurso followed, complete with a daily coach, and during the rest of the 1800s, efforts to complete the road west to Durness continued, though as late as 1894, anyone making that journey relied on ferries to cross the Kyle of Tongue, the River Hope and Loch Erible. The scenery changes dramatically as we move across the border into the county of Caithness. The rugged, mountainous scenery of Sutherland is replaced with a relatively flat, treeless landscape, hence it is known as the lowlands beyond the highlands. The underlying geology of most of Caithness is old red sandstone. This consists of the cemented sediments of Lake Arcady, which is believed to have stretched from Shetland to the Grampian Mountains about 370 million years ago. Fossilised fish and plant remains are found between the layers of sediments. The coastline is a major scenic feature of Caithness, with water to the north and east of the county. Caithness has a long coastline, and the sea has had a significant impact on the history, economy and outlook of its people. In the west of the county, blanket bog and peatlands abound and form the eastern part of the flow country. In the east there is less peat and very good farmland. There are more brochs in Caithness than there are anywhere else in Scotland. The Yarrows Broch was excavated in the 1890s. The structure would originally have been as high as a two-storey house. When the broch was built around 2,000 years ago, the area would have looked very different. The climate was much warmer and drier, lending itself to agricultural and pastoral activities. Many species of trees and bush would have grown, and the peat landscape would not have existed in this area. The stacks at Duncansby Head near John O'Groats are visually impressive. One of them, the Great Stack, is over 200 feet high and is actually higher than the cliffs on the mainland. Sea stacks are formed by long-term wave erosion, typically of horizontally bedded rock, which are cut by joints. Either the cliffs recede rapidly or solid rocky promontories are slowly undermined to form arches that eventually collapse, leaving offshore stacks. Continued marine erosion causes the stacks to collapse, leaving a stump. Duncansby Stacks is of the Middle Devonian age, 386 million years old. This poem in Caithness dialect describes our unique Caithness coastline.
Oh, Caithness, placey o' my birth means alley world to me. Its coastline like a bairnie scribble, rough and jaggedy. Great chunks of rock houked off as stacks by time's remorseless waves. Its salt-encrusted cliff tops home of skirling scory breaves.
And finally, we come to the end of our journey at the most northerly point of mainland Britain, Dunnet Head. This, the final verse of the poem Ma Caithness, gives us a heart-rending summary of this northern land.
We're folk are hardy, head till be, but played right hearty hosts till them that travelled far and wide till settle round our coasts. This placey gets a blow your skin, ye tune in till it's bite. I'm glad I've Caithness in my veins, it sets my bleed on height.
We have travelled from the rugged west coast up and around the northwestern part of the mainland and east on to Dunnet Head and the Pentland Firth. In our journey of around 300 miles, we have seen the majesty of the Ray Forest Mountains, the dazzling indented sea lochs and beaches, flat treeless islands and bird colonies, rugged headlands, impressive sea stacks, amazing waterfalls, the oldest rocks in Europe, the blanket bog flow country, and the unique ancient archaeology left by the original inhabitants of this remote area. Sutherland and Caithness cover an area of around 2,700 square miles, with a population of under 40,000. It is impossible to cover everything about an area this vast in such a short film. Therefore, in the next feature in this Sutherland and Caithness series, we will take a closer look at the people, their occupations, towns, villages, farming, crofting, arts, craft, customs and lifestyle of this northern part of Scotland.
What a palaver at that supermarket, and all because of this COVID thing. We had to follow a one-way system, so I started up the first aisle, and coming towards me from the opposite direction was this huge guy, who obviously was not going to stop. He expected me to move for him. Well, nobody tells me what to do. I can tell you that. So I stood my ground, and would you believe it, there were other people following him, and they were angry. One woman was even shaking her fist at me. Couldn't believe it. Well, I just said to myself, Agnes, you're just going to have to push through them. And then up comes a shop assistant, grabs hold of my trolley, turns me round with the trolley, escorted me back the way I'd come and up into the next aisle. There's no family contact allowed, so Catherine and Isabel, they're my nieces. They can't even come and visit. Mind you, they never come here anyway. I can't imagine why. And as for Roger, that so-called nephew of mine, I told him never to darken my door again after what he did. Oh, that's Mr. McIntosh across the road again. Always toots. Toots when he leaves, toots when he comes back, toots when he washes his car. I suppose it's just to make sure it still toots. One of these days, I'm going to tell him to stop all that tooting. He's supposed to be working from home. He's always away somewhere. I don't know how he gets any work done. This used to be such a nice, quiet neighbourhood. I had more trouble at the supermarket this morning. I tried to complain, but I got nowhere. So I asked if I could speak to the manager. Oh, and sure enough, down he comes, all hoity-toity, looking at me as if I was something he'd picked up in the sole of his shoe. Well, I can tell you, nobody looks at me like that. I came straight back home and phoned their head office, when I got an answering machine telling me that they weren't taking calls at this time. So I sent an email. Oh, I was very polite. I just detailed what I was complaining about and what I wanted them to do about it. And guess what? I got an email back saying that they weren't replying to any emails at this time. I saw Jessie Crawford earlier on out in the street today. I don't think she saw me because I had to swerve to avoid her. She had a face mask on outside. Mind you, it wasn't much of a mask. It was just a scarf wrapped round her face. As if that would make any difference. So I said to her, "What's that round your mouth, Jessie?" And she said, "It's my mask. I don't want to get the COVID." At least, that's what I think she said, because it was all muffled. Anyway, I just told her straight, "Jessie, that's not a proper face mask. It's only a scarf. That's not going to make much difference. You need to get a proper face mask, the kind you get from the chemist." I don't think she was very pleased, because she went off in a huff and made some remark as she passed me. I don't know what it was, because it was all muffled. That was the window cleaner for his money. I had to have a few choice words with him. Last time he was here, he missed out one of my windows. Imagine that. I had to wash one of the windows myself. Anyway, I just told him straight I was deducting 50 pence from his bill this time for the window he missed last time. He went absolutely ballistic. I thought he was going to have a fit. He went red in the face, and I have never heard language like it. So I just said to him, "You're too fat to be climbing ladders, and at your age you should be thinking of retiring. He's not coming back. That's the third window cleaner I've had this year. Can you hear that? That's the dog next door. I don't know why they had to get a dog that size. Anyway, on Monday morning when I went out, it had done its business right at my gatepost. Well, I wasn't having that, so I scooped up the mess, left it on their doorstep with a note asking them to make sure it didn't do it again. They don't talk to me anymore. Funnily enough, this morning I saw another dog doing its business in exactly the same place. That's that Mr. McIntosh again. He's doing it deliberately. I told him straight to his face that I was sick of hearing it. He wasn't the least bit bothered, and now he's ignoring me in the street. I hear he works for the supermarket. Small world, isn't it? I phoned the doctor for an appointment yesterday, but that snooty receptionist said that they weren't making appointments for face-to-face consultations unless it was an emergency. Well, I can tell you that it's an emergency as far as I'm concerned. But would she budge? She would not. She told me to contact the NHS website. I ask you, how can a website examine an ingrowing toenail? I'd like a wee glass of sherry in the evening. Just one, mind you. I used to go to a ladies' coffee morning in the public library on a Wednesday morning, but of course that's all had to stop with this COVID. They decided to have their meetings on the Zoom thingamy and the internet. I only found out it by accident when Senga at the post office happened to mention it. Annie, the social convener, self-appointed, said that she sent out an email to everybody, but she must have missed me out by mistake. Anyway, I logged in, and would you believe this, that I was put on mute during the meeting? And what even worse, Annie refuses to discuss the matter. Oh, maybe I should have kept quiet. Least said, soonest mended. Maybe they'd still be speaking to me. Where am I going to find a new window cleaner?
Well, howdy.
Hi.
Hi. Ooh.
Okay. Which trick are you going to show us this time, Mr. USA?
Okay, alright. Check this out. Huh?
Okay. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The view, not so much.
Well, if you like, I could make it scary.
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit curious as into what is so scary about a shadow. It's literally standing there, it's not even doing anything.
Yeah, but like, give it like 1 second. 1 second. Really? I mean, like, not even sunshine or something?
It's alright. Okay, I'm gonna change it. Wrong button.
Oh, wait a second though, that's kind of interesting.
Wait, what is so interesting about a negative? It's... Look at my hair! I'm changing it.
Ready.
Oh wait, there's me! There's you!
Oh, okay. Push background only. Push background only.
Leuchie House celebrates. Leuchie House is a respite centre to give a short break to those living with MS and other long-term conditions. It is situated in East Lothian in a very peaceful setting just south of North Berwick. In 2020, the staff at Leuchie discussed how to celebrate their 10th anniversary due the following year and at the same time raise more money to keep their work solvent. They decided to hold a big hair trail. 11 white, 6-foot-high fiberglass hairs would be made. Artists would be recruited to paint them in different patterns. Local businesses would be invited to sponsor the hares. During the summer, the hares would be placed around North Berwick for all to enjoy, and in the autumn an auction of the hares would be held, with the money raised going towards Leuchie. So for 10 weeks the hares were on display in various prominent parts of North Berwick, while passers-by admired and photographed them. Let's hear a little more detail about some of the hares.
Hello, I'm Kirsty and I'm from Leuchie House. I'm the Community and Events fundraiser and I've been part of the team bringing the Big Hair Trail to North Berwick this summer. Here we are at one of our hares. This is Over the Rainbow, which was painted by a local artist called Rosie Watson, and it's just beautiful. We chose this location based on the fact that there was just so many colours, it was so vibrant, all of the flowers, the buzzing bees, the butterflies, it just suited this location perfectly, as behind you can obviously see the beautiful flower display and the North Berwick in Bloom flower bed there is. Yeah, and what do you like about this one?
Because really it does, because it has golf clubs.
Yeah, and do you know what? These are actually real golf clubs that have been fiberglassed, and the artist's name, I don't know if you can see it, is Rutherford, and so that was actually his first driver, and that was his best friend's first driver. This here got a special invite to the Scottish Open. It created a real buzz, and he definitely felt very at home there. On the hare, we got about 40 signatures from all of the people who were playing sort of in the final stages of the tournament. This was painted by Abby Herriot, who's local to North Berwick. On the hare here, you've got puffins, gannets, the bass rock is featured here on the back as well, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And on a day like today with the sun shining, it really shows the hare off its best.
On Saturday mornings, a stall was set out at the entrance to the lodge ground, and passers-by were invited to learn about Leuchie's hair trail, donate, or to buy a raffle ticket for a 4-day stay at a hotel. The money from all this going to Leuchie. During these 10 summer weeks, North Berwick has been buzzing with talk of the hares and taking photos of them. Interest in Leuchie House and its respite care has skyrocketed. What a cause for celebration. But on Saturday the 25th of September, the time came to collect the hares. Once collected, the hares were taken to the Marine Hotel, where they were transferred to the hotel lawn.
over here.
On Friday the 1st of October, the grand auction was held in the Marine Hotel. Attendance was £20 per person. Those planning to bid had to register their intention before they came. Glenn Campbell, the BBC Scotland's political correspondent, was here as Master of Ceremonies. There was great excitement and anticipation.
Welcome to the Leuchie Hair Auction. We're hoping for a very successful evening to raise funds for Leuchie House through the sale of our amazing hairs.
My name's Di Jennings from Simpson and Marwick, and this is our gorgeous hair, and we're here for the excitement of the auction and looking forward to it.
I am Felicity Rebate from ECS.
And I'm Chris Fink from ECS, and we're here to bid on a hair or two.
Oh, two, a few.
Hi there, my name's Kylie. I'm here tonight to win a hair, hopefully. We're supporting Abby Harriet and her mum Kirsty, and we would love one of the hairs to stay in North Berwick, so we're here to support them both. Have an amazing evening.
Hi there, I'm Rose, and I'm here to support Leuchie House. I'm loving the hairs, and I'm hoping to really get one of them that I think is extra special tonight.
Hi, my name's Kirsty Harriet. I'm here because my daughter Abby did the hair that's been outside the Seabird Centre for the last few months. I'm a very proud mummy, and I'm here to try and win her hair for the community so it stays in North Berwick.
Hello, I'm Glenn Campbell, and I'm at the Big Hair Trail because, well, I've got the honour of introducing the evening and then handing over to the auctioneer to make sure we raise as much money as possible for Leuchie House and the Big Hair Trail Grand Auction.
Hi there, my name's Alicia. I'm the office manager at Simpson and Marwick, North Berwick, and I've been in charge of sharing and posting social media posts for the hair trail right the way through, and we've had a delight of having our hair at the side of our office in North Berwick. We're sad to see it go, but we're hoping it's going to find a lovely new home.
The Big Hair Trail Grand Auction. This is the end of our hair trail, and at the end of the hair trail is your chance to take one home, to own a hair, to love and look after. And give a very warm welcome to our Big Hair Trail auctioneer, May Matthews.
So let's start with lot number one, the hair brain. Without further ado, I would like to welcome bids at £2,000. Do I see £2,000 in the room anywhere? £2,000 for lot number one. Thank you very much, I do. Wonderful, that's £2,000. Next bid will be £2,100. Do I see £2,100? Thank you very much. With my telephone bidder on the table at the back of the room. Do I see £2,300? Yes, I do. Thank you. £2,300. Next bid would be £5,300, £5,400, £5,500. Okay, looks like we have sold our first lot. Thank you very much, madam. Now, I think we've got Abby in the room and a group of supporters. Right, where shall we start? £2,000. Do I see £2,000 anywhere? £2,000. Thank you, madam. £2,000. Do I see 2-1? Currently on the table over here. £6,500. Do I see 6-6 anywhere? Fair warning. £6,500. Better get my gavel. So, sponsored by Pike and Banbury. Who would like to start me off at £2,000? Do I see £2,000? Thank you, £2,000 here with the lady at the back of the room. 9-3, 9-4, 9-5, 9-6, 9-7, 9-8, 9-9, £10,000. 19-2, 19-3, 19-4, 19-5, 19-6, 19-7, 19-8, 19-9, £20,000. £20,000. £22,000. Next would be 23, if anybody wishes to bid. £22,000. Let's be clear, £22,000. And the gentleman seated here, congratulations. Sold.
It's an amazing amount of money for Leuchie House, far more than the team ever imagined was possible from tonight's auction. £115,800. An idea of what that money will do for Leuchie House. That sum is enough to fund almost 4 specialist nurses for a whole calendar year. So basically tonight you've paid for, I think, about half the specialist nursing capacity for Leuchie House for the next 12 months. That's fantastic.
If displaying all the hares during the summer had been the first celebration of Leuchie's 10th anniversary, the raising of so much money for its continued ministry was its second. What has happened to the hares since they were sold? 2 of them, bought and donated by friends of Leuchie, are now inside the building. The third one was bought by the North Berwick Community Trust and is now in their woodland park.
On behalf of North Berwick Trust, I'd just like to say that we're delighted to see Hetty the hare here in her new home. She's in front of the law, in sight of the Bass Rock, and it's a marvellous landmark, and we're very, very pleased to have one of the hares here in her home of North Berwick.
The hare to golf hare had been bought by the Renaissance Club in East Lothian for £22,000. Mr. Brannan tells the story.
Hi there, my name is Bob Brannan. I'm one of the original members of Renaissance Club. We were very privileged to have the golf hare at Renaissance for the Scottish Open this year. It seemed to me that when the auction arose, it felt he should really be back at Renaissance where he'd started off. And so I approached the club to determine whether they would be happy for him to be hosted there long term, and they were. And so I raised an appeal amongst the members of Renaissance, and we raised £32,000. So I had that sum of money going into the auction, and it was a lovely evening. But we knew we had a substantial sum of money for the bid, and the bidding went to 22,000 and ended there. But we have donated all 32,000 raised, and so that's I'm sure a super contribution to Leuchie, which is my favourite charity. We're very privileged to have been awarded the Scottish Open again at Renaissance in 2022, when all the world's great golfers will come back, and maybe we'll add a few more signatures to the hare, and long may he continue to sit there.